Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Parenting is Easy, Said No One Ever. I am your host, Fanani Abraham, and I have an awesome conversation that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today with Lavinia Brown, who is a specialist in inner child work, something that is near and dear to my heart and something that I'm so excited that you guys are going to be learning about. We're going to talk about the concepts of inner child, how it pertains to us as parents, what the inner child actually is, how to go about healing from inner child experiences and emotions that have been unresolved for a long time, and understanding the inner child in a way that will enable us to see and feel and be with our children in ways that we never thought possible. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this awesome episode with Lavinia Brown. So Lavinia, I'm so happy we're finally able to make this work over here. And I think there's so many different areas within the inner child work that I think we can talk about. But can you just give us a little overall synopsis of where inner child, where it comes from regarding the concept, and also how we can relate to it specifically for ourselves and also for parenting specifically?
Good question, actually, because I know you're a therapist. Many people have come to me going, I kind of know about the inner child. And then when I explain what the inner child is for me, it's different. So I would like to actually explain what it is for me, because I think it's important and it does relate exactly to being a mother. So as a parent, I'm sure you're a parent, otherwise you wouldn't have this podcast, right? As a parent, you know that you are giving out love, guidance, trying to be there, screwing up, trying to love yourself back into feeling enough. It's full on. You're putting out a lot. Therefore, for me, you are not the inner parent. You are not having to find an inner child within you and inner parenting that inner child. Obviously, it's all imaginary. So in the end, it all comes down to, well, it's all in your head anyway. But the way I do it is that the inner parent is outside of you. You are relating to a being, an energy, an angel, if you're religious, God, an animal, whatever it is that resonates, that you can receive from. So you are imagining a safe other who is there for you, who is on your team, who is backing you. And therefore, you can then relax into the metaphorical arms of this safe other and not be this person that's giving out all day, which you do as a parent. And I find that if you are the inner parent and you are having to find this inner child within you, it's just more parenting. It's just parenting another child. And you know, I get my clients to practice doing it last thing at night as a way of connecting to that part of them that needs someone else to take over, that can go, you can relax now, you can sleep now, I'm here. And if you're having to be like, okay, I've put my kids to bed, what? I need to put my inner child to bed now? That for me is just another chore. So for me, the inner child is you. It's you. If you are feeling overwhelmed or distressed or scared or ashamed or whatever big feeling you're feeling, you are in your inner child anyway. That inner child is in the driving seat of your life. So I guess to answer your question, I see us as a car, and our inner child is in the driving seat of our life for much of that car journey until we've done this work. When we've done this work, we've created the safety for her to step into the back seat of that car. And then we're in our adult. And we want our adult to be parenting. We want our adult to be in relationships. We want our adult to be relating to our parents, not needing them to be someone or behave in a certain way for us to feel okay. So the inner child is part of me, just as the mama side is part of me, just as the wife bit is part of me, just as all my roles are part of me. And we're just focusing on honing in on that part and allowing her to relax and be taken care of by someone other than her, someone outside of her. I find that is easier to conceptualize and easier to relax into than doing it all within you, if that makes sense.
So I think it makes sense. I just want to clarify things because I think when we talk about inner child, the way I understand inner child is it has a lot to do with it's healing parts of us of unresolved childhood emotions and experiences that we've had in ourselves that we never had a chance to sort of grow up from. So it could be, so let's say, certain situations of how we were treated around our birthday and never being recognized. And as we get older, wanting that experience of being recognized on our birthdays, and therefore wanting to have certain types of parties every year on our birthday into our 20s and 30s and 40s and beyond. So that's why I sort of understand the inner child of it's the adult psyche part of us that needs to be getting more connected to the inner child inside of us. So, but the way you're explaining it, it's sort of like a third party in a certain way, which I think regarding looking to conceptualize could be easier in a certain way. But that's where I'm sort of trying to make a bridge from the way you're saying it, from what the concept of inner child is, at least from the psychotherapy point of view.
Yeah. So yes, I externalize the inner parent, and I believe that the inner child, the inner teenager, and whatever other parts of you experience challenges or trauma that is unresolved. And of course it's unresolved because at that age they weren't able to process it themselves, especially if we had parents that didn't teach us how to regulate our emotions because they couldn't. Then it's almost like that part of you has been on pause. And our job is to press unpause and release those feelings that you swallowed at that time because you didn't know how to process them. There was nothing else to do but swallow them. You just shoved them down. And the way I approach this is very body-based. So I believe that, like Bessel van der Kolk, is it, if I pronounce it properly, the body holds the score. The body is where all of these traumas or challenges or unresolved painful experiences are kept. So what we are doing is pressing unpause on those feelings. I sometimes talk about a box. You've got a box inside, and as a child, you just stuffed everything that you were scared of expressing because you thought there might be negative consequences, or it was painful to do so, or you were labeled as dramatic or too sensitive or whatever it was for expressing them. You stuffed them into the box and you shut that lid. And that lid has remained closed, and it will remain closed. It's the biologically normal thing to do until you feel safe enough to go there. If you don't feel safe enough to go there, that lid will not come off. It can't, and it's wrong to force it off. We have to work with the inner child as her own identity to create the safety that she needs to lift that lid in her own time. And she will do that when she's ready. And different experiences come up when they are ready to be resolved. So yes, I'm dealing with the inner child, I'm dealing with the inner teenager, and it might be the inner 21-year-old when you got sent to rehab because you were told that you've got issues that need sorting out, or your inner 25-year-old who was told that they were stupid in their first job and they never really got over it because of the way that they were shamed. So all these parts of us are in there. We're carrying the energy of these parts of us. And when they are ready to come forward, step forward with their stuff, we welcome them with open arms and we hear what they have to say. And what they have to say is what is stuffed or was stuffed into that box. That's the way I see it.
Into that box. Yeah. So when a parent, I think a lot of us have unresolved things from our childhood, and yes, I more recently have stopped trying to use the word trauma just because I think it is a little bit overused. So I said with unresolved experiences from our past, and not everything from our past has to be a trauma. So it's just about dealing with it properly. At the same time, I also do believe that trauma, the way I translate it, at least my practice, is something that Pia Mellody calls anything that is less than nurturing. But that doesn't mean that's going to affect us in a way where it could turn into a traumatic event. But there are a lot of unresolved experiences that we have that need to be talked about. And I think that's where our inner child needs to be healed. We need to have a connection to it, which I think is really important. So bringing it back over here to this conversation regarding parenting, I'm curious in situations where parents have a lot of experiences that need to be talked about and need to be expressed. And at the same time, they also have another job. One of the many hats they wear is parenting. They have to take care of things on a normal basis, not just regarding homework and laundry, but regarding so many other things that come about throughout the entire life of our children that we have to make sure that we're able to be there with and for them. So I'm curious, how would you go about working with parents in a way where they can deal with their own things and make sure that what they're doing regarding their parenting is not affected by the inner child, but by who they are and how they're dealing with things as a parent right now?
If I understand that question correctly, then my answer is that we can only become aware of what is unresolved and what needs to be processed through screwing up. Unfortunately, often that's the route to understanding where we are going wrong. I mean, I'll give you an example. And when I say screwing up, it's through often the realization that we're not meeting our children's needs. When you said we're there with them and for them, I think it's often when they demonstrate or tell us outright that we are not there for them and with them, that we have to then do the inner work to realize what we've done wrong. So my son at the moment is going through a lot of stress. He's got exams at school, so of course that adds its whole level of it's obvious stress. But I feel like there's something more. I was thinking, like, what is going on here? It feels like it's more, and it made me actually look back over his behavior since he was born and go, actually, are there patterns here that I hadn't actually realized that have just become magnified right now under stress? And I was talking about it with my partner, and he said, we're really criticizing him right now. And I thought, you know what? I really am, because I'm stressed right now as well. And my go-to, unfortunately, when I'm feeling stressed, I end up picking on everyone else. So I was picking on his eating habits, for example. Can you just eat with your mouth shut? Like, sit up straight. The knife doesn't go in that hand. You know which hand the knife goes in. Put it in your right hand. Like, why aren't you using it? Because I was stressed. So I just want to project it onto someone else. That's my unconscious parenting. But the point is, I only realized, oh my God, I've been really harsh recently because his behavior is reflecting it back to me. I've been quite happily criticizing him, but less, without really looking at it, because I was thinking, well, he needs to know how to eat. He can't not eat at this age. I was justified in this is what I need to teach him. I'm guiding him, which was ridiculous. It's just blind. So I think we become aware of our stuff when our children mirror it back to us. I've had the same thing with my daughter. I'm sure you've had the same things. Sometimes when their behavior is appalling, you're like, what is wrong with them? Like, they're being so aggressive, they're being so rude, whatever it is. And then you're like, hold on.
Right.
Am I okay? Am I stressed? No, I'm not stressed. I'm fine. Well, maybe I'm a bit stressed. Actually, I'm quite stressed. Actually, I'm really stressed. And you realize you've been giving off this energy that they are merely throwing back at you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think in your point, you're sort of answering my next question regarding, what would be some of the common signs that parents might benefit from inner child therapy. And I think, that you're sort of answering it as, like I like to refer to, make a U-turn, go inside and see what's happening. And like, oh yeah, so today is going to have to be a little more calmer. I have to be more aware of those little habits that my kids do that I find annoying because I'm on edge a little bit. The caffeine hasn't hit yet fully, or I haven't gotten enough sleep, and all those little things that I'm dealing with. So when I see the unresolved things within myself that I have to work on, and I make sure that I'm parenting for the child and not parenting for me. And I think that's really where the difference is. Yeah. But I want to talk a little bit more about the healing process of the inner child and inner child therapy that a parent can do specifically for themselves regarding their parenting. So I'm trying to be a little more nuanced and specific over here when we talk about what the healing process looks like. So can you talk a little bit about, well, I guess really two parts of this. First, parents that can use someone to talk to, what type of questions can they be asking their counselor or their therapist regarding help work on their inner child? And what can they work on at home to make sure that they're working on their inner child so that they can parent for their children specifically?
I always go to the example of triggers. If you are having a disproportionate reaction, and we know it's disproportionate, some people go, but how do I know? I'm just angry. A disproportionate reaction is one that feels very visceral. It often feels physical. You see red. You want to break something, hit something. It feels extreme. and it feels out of control often. It feels out of control. It feels like it's a younger part of you. It feels like you're having a tantrum or something. If you're experiencing disproportionate reactions to something your children did, or if something's going round and round and round on a loop, like say someone's rude to you and you're like, or your child is rude to you and you just cannot let it go. Or I should have said this. Well, what if I'd done this? And then maybe I could have done this. I can't believe they said that. It's just, I can't believe they said. You're having a lot of conversations in your head. Then these are signs that there's something deeper going on. So everyone gets annoyed and frustrated by their kids. That's normal. But if you're having a disproportionate reaction that feels like this, then we know that there's something deeper underneath. And that's where you want to start thinking, this feeling that I'm feeling, when do I remember feeling the same way as a child or adolescent or some point in my past? Who made me feel this way? What feels similar? And then we know that that is the experience that needs healing. Those are the original feelings that are just getting stirred up by whatever's happening now. Your child being rude or whatever it is, someone ignoring you, ghosting you, it's not about them. You are projecting the feelings from that original experience onto this new experience. And so the same feelings are coming up. And probably you are reacting like the age that you were back then. So that's what I would say people can do at home. Pay attention to your triggers. What disproportionately annoys you, makes you feel ashamed, makes you feel sad. Go back to how you felt this way as a child, adolescent, young adult. See if you can feel those original feelings. If you can't, because it feels scary, like going back to what we said before, you can't lift that lid if that lid's not ready to be lifted. That is then what you would take to your therapist or your counselor and say, I think I'm reliving something that's unresolved, unprocessed. I want some help understanding what that experience might be, because that bit's quite tricky, actually. It's not always obvious. I want some help understanding what's at the root cause of this trigger, and can you help me unpack it? Can you be the space holder for me while I feel it? Because that bit's really important. Safety is so paramount here. I wouldn't advise anyone to do this work on their own if it's a challenge, a trauma, an experience that feels more charged, you can feel that in your body, then like a 5 out of a 10. If it's 4, 3, 2, 1, great, practice doing that. But if it feels like, oh, I don't want to go there, don't go there. You can't anyway, your body won't let you. That's what you would take to someone else to hold space for you to help you process it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I absolutely amazing. Yeah, it really does. And it really resonates with everything you're saying. And, talking about the body keeps a score. When we feel it in our chest, we feel it in other parts of our body that might not be as active, like, using that red that you're talking about. If there's a part of our body that starts feeling red, that's when we use the acronym that I like talking about, ABC, like always be curious, always know what's happening. They're like, oh, okay, so my chest is red right now. Oh, it's a little bit heightened. What's going on? And when we ask ourselves that question, I think questions are the key to parenting in many ways. I think there's so many things that we can find out the answers to when we ask questions to and about ourselves. And I think another point that that I think is important, which is to your point of what you're talking about, is the concept of always be fallible and understand as a parent is that there's no such thing as perfect parenting. When I was going through the names of how to of what to call this podcast, I wanted to call it perfect parenting, and because there is no such thing. So I figured, oh, perfect parenting, like, yeah, right. There's no such thing, and exactly, there is no such thing. And I think to your point of realizing that, yeah, there's something going on inside. And it could be connected to something that I've been through, and if it's a certain level, and understand that I love the gauging schedule. Scale of 0 to 10, and I hope everyone here understands that their 0 to 10 is going to look different than their sisters, than their mothers, and then their neighbors, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And your level 4 might be something that, we have to go to a therapist for this, and that's okay as well. And if you don't have the tools, if I don't have the inner strength right now to go inside and say, all right, let's put a lid on this so that we can deal with this issue at hand, and I need to deal with this, that's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself to go ahead and say, that this is not something that we're going to deal with now. And
Absolutely.
I think that's, as long as we keep that awareness, that's really, really going to be important.
Yeah.
So
and I want to add to
I
that,
think you give a really good
actually,
answer here.
something that you've made me think of. Going back to the trauma, it doesn't have to be a traumatic event, that it can still affect your parenting. So, for example, I said my son's going through exams right now. I actually did really well in exams, probably because I'm really good in traumatic situations because of my childhood. I rise to the occasion. I'm very calm. Even though inside I'm thinking, I'm in fight or flight, I deliver, I perform well. So exams aren't something that I've ever failed at. I do well. But him going through the exams and me feeling so stressed, I was like, hold on. What is this bringing up in me? And I realized it was bringing up all the stress around exams. Even though I did well, it's not about failure. It's about the being on the spot, So it's not like that was traumatic to me because I did well, but it brought up all of the angst. And I don't want him to go through the same angst again. I was projecting my child onto him. So that's an example. And another example that kind of is a bit silly, but this is where, like you said, you've got to be kind to yourself. Many of my clients go, oh, this is a bit silly. I'm like, nothing is silly. Nothing is silly. I've had clients who've got huge trauma, inverted commas, over not being able to wear the dresses that they wanted to wear to a party. So basically they were dismissed because they weren't allowed to express themselves in the way that they wanted to. Age 3. My silly one is parking. And I know this wasn't trauma as such. I totally absorbed it from my mother. My mother was a really nervous, terrible driver. I still get in a flap when I have to be a certain place that I've never been to before. I don't know how to get there. So I'm using my maps religiously on my phone. But I've got a timeline and I don't know where to park. I'm worried about whether I'm going to be able to reverse park into the only parking space that's left in the whole town. So that gets me in a real flap. Again, that wasn't trauma that I went through. I witnessed my mother being very dysregulated. I kind of absorbed that. So I have to have, literally, my inner parent in the front seat with me, the passenger seat of my car, assuring me that we're going to get there on time. It's okay. I'm going to look for a parking spot for you. Don't worry. You just drive. I'm looking out. We're going to get there on time. You're okay. You're doing really well. You're so brave. Driving to this new town. You're amazing. Kind of silly, but that's what I need. So it doesn't have to be this really big thing. When I say disproportionate reaction, I know that I'm having a disproportionate reaction to not finding a parking spot. But for me, it's horrendous.
Right. So it's not disproportionate. It's what is needed in that moment. You could talk about it now and say, oh my God, that's so silly. But it actually brings me to my next question. When we talk about self-compassion and the role that plays specifically in inner child work. And I'm curious how parents can cultivate that specifically in their everyday lives in their parenting.
Oh, that's the biggest, that is the point of inner parenting. So for me, I always say that there are 2 stages of inner parenting. There's the validation and then there's the soothing. The validation part is the most important part, and people always skip to the soothing. And I think it's because in this society, many people, what's it called? Kind of toxic positivity, spiritual bypassing. Everyone wants to be love and light. Fine. But if you're missing out the bit that means that you're not love and light, that you're actually having a shit time and that you're really struggling, like me with the parking. If I go, it's fine, you'll get there on time. Don't be silly, it's fine. That's not helping me. I need someone to say to me, wow, that's really scary. You're amazing. You are so brave. I get that you are terrified right now. Yeah, I am. I'm really scared. Yeah, and I'm here with you. I'm with you, and I'm feeling that fear with you. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. That bit is the compassion that most of us missed out on in our childhood because our parents wanted to fix us or they couldn't deal with our big emotions, so they had to dismiss it or shut it down or send us to our room or spank us or whatever it was because they didn't know how to handle big feelings. So that is the most important component, compassion. But if you've had a difficult childhood where you didn't experience compassion, it's very difficult to start that process of viewing yourself with compassion, which is, again, where the inner parent comes in. I found it very hard to see myself with anything other than critical, hatred, dismissal. I was very, very harsh on myself. And most of my clients were very
The inner
harsh.
self-critic.
Yeah, but really, mean, in a horrible person. That's why, again, I like to have the inner parent outside of you. Because you're not saying, oh, you just need to love yourself. You're saying, you don't need to love yourself, but this person does. She does. So that, for me, made it easier to receive compassion because it wasn't me. Of course, it's me, it's in my head, but it wasn't me.
That makes a lot of sense. And I resonates with me everything you're saying. Now I think I'm actually understanding it a little bit more what you mean by having it external, so that it could be seen in a certain way. And it happens to be in general, at least when I'm dealing with certain diagnoses in my office. I like having the clients externalize what they're dealing with, so it's not a part of them in the sense of I am defined by this. Like I'm dealing with an anxiety, not that I am an anxiety, or I'm dealing with depression and I'm not depressed. And I think there's a very big difference in how we're going to deal with something when we sort of take it out. We're going to say, at least here in America, we would say, I have a cold, but I'm not a cold in that sense, because that's not help us deal with whatever it is that we have. I have a runny nose, or not I am a runny nose. So it's the same concept of how we're going to deal with things. So I think to your point, it makes a lot of sense. So I think we're getting the overall conceptualization of what inner child is and how we can deal with it. Maybe you could make it a little more tangible. Can you give an example of a breakthrough moment that you've witnessed parents or someone have regarding their inner child specifically and the work that they've done with it?
Well, no, hold on. I was just thinking that one that I brought up earlier about not being able to wear the dress that you want is kind of ridiculous, age 9. But I want to think of one that had consequences for how they were parenting. I had one this morning. This is a very common one, actually. So many of my clients come to me with parenting issues. They are not able to be the parents that they want to be, that they know how they want to be in their head, but in the moment, they're not able to deliver. However, they also come with relationship issues, which makes complete sense, really, but that normally takes a back burner. So we get to that after we've dealt with the parenting stuff. But I like to look at what I call the mother imprint and the father imprint. So we do that in turn. That's the kind of foundation of my work. A client this morning just had finished the father imprint, and she kept saying to me, I really want to talk about my husband. I really want to talk about the way he dismisses me. He doesn't listen to me. He shouts at the children. It really triggers me. I don't want my kids to experience the kind of volatile, angry father that I did. I said, okay, great. Yeah, we're carrying it over. We will do that. Well, let's just finish the father imprint first, and then absolutely we will look at that. Got to the session, and we'd finished the father imprint, and I said, how's it going with your husband? Should we tackle what you wanted to look at? And she was like, oh, I've had an amazing breakthrough. I was like, oh, what happened? She's like, he has calmed down. He's not so angry with the children. He's being much more receptive to me. It's just incredible. I don't know what's changed. And I said, I do. You are no longer projecting your father onto your husband. So she had a father who she was terrified of, but desperately needy of. Very, very absent father who was scary, angry, a little bit violent, but she was desperate to have his approval, to know that he loved her. We did a lot of work on that, and I do a lot of somatic work, so body held trauma release as well. Once we'd done that, even though she hadn't done anything with her husband, the fact that, again, going back to the car, her inner child was no longer in the car in terms of her relationship with her husband. Her inner child was in the back. So she changed without even realizing it. She was no longer projecting onto him, I need you to calm me down. I need you to be a certain way. I need you to not argue because that's scary. I need you to tell me that you love me all the time. I need constant reassurance. When she shifted that, and she was able to show up as an adult in an adult relationship, what happened? She left him the space for him to move into. So she didn't do anything. They haven't been to see marriage counseling. Nothing. Just that energy shift. So I always say it's like a loop. If you remember physics at school, you've got I don't know, for me, it was like a red clip and a blue clip, and the charge, the electricity goes round. If you move one clip, it can't go round in the same loop anymore. Something has to change. So she changed the way she was needing him, because that's the part that needs something, right? Your inner child needs other people to be a certain way for them to feel okay, including your children. When she didn't do that anymore, it shifted. So that was like, yes.
On the old record players, when there was like a little nick, it would go to that same word. It would make the same sound over and over. It gets stuck on there. But once you smooth it out, if you had a professional dealing with that, and I think we are professionals to ourselves, and we're probably better than anyone else can ever be for ourselves, than us taking care of things for ourselves. That sort of smooths out those little ridges and makes it things can go around. So it's by working on those things, the unresolved things with a parent that we might have, or will automatically have a tenfold effect down the road regarding how we're going to parent in a certain way. And I think we mentioned it. We started talking about before the concept of self-care, working on certain things. And yes, there is a concept of self-care that I think is maybe even a little bit too much talked about in the therapy world. At the same time, I think when we have to work on certain things, there's a self-care that's needed. The way I like to refer to it is, even you could have the best automobile in the world, it still needs to be shut down so that it can work again tomorrow. Meaning there's some things that need to be done in order for it to work again tomorrow. And us as parents work the same way. I'm curious, taking a little step further over here regarding an inner child. I guess the way I would ask the question is, how often or what type of recommendation would you say to someone that needs to take their inner child out for ice cream? How do they go about doing that and making sure that that the inner child is getting the help that it needs so that it can be present today?
Ice cream's a good one. Fun is a good one. Talking of breakthroughs, that's one I had yesterday. And many of my mum clients, they can't relax fully. They can't relax fully. They can't enjoy their families fully. They feel that their husbands or their partners are the fun ones. And that makes complete sense if your inner child doesn't feel safe. Of course, you can't be fun. Of course, you can't play. You can't play. You can't be creative. You can't be inspired. You can't be in awe if you're scared. Fear shuts everything down. So taking your inner child out for ice cream, it's about, for me, it starts with becoming self-aware. So finding pockets of time throughout your day just to go, what am I feeling? Like you said, curiosity. Where's red, or where's hot, or where's whatever? What am I feeling right now? And maybe it's like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know. So then just sit with it. And sometimes I give people an emotions wheel to go, okay, you can start with happy or sad, and then work from the happy or sad into a more sophisticated emotion, if you like. But just checking in, what do I need?
Well, yeah.
Is there anything that I need right now? And I'm often dismissing my own anxiety. I'm often anxious, and I'm so used to feeling anxious that to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Because I'm used to that low level of anxiety constantly. I actually have to go, right, how am I feeling? Yeah, I'm fine. That's often the I'm fine. Okay, let's just sit with that a moment. Are you really fine?
Yeah, it makes a lot of
I'm
sense.
a little bit anxious. Okay. And the other thing I like to remind people of is, you don't have to have just one emotion. In school, we're kind of taught, are you happy or are you sad? Well, you might be happy and depressed about something that you learned recently. And you might be a bit frustrated with someone that said something to you today. And you might be a bit excited about a TV show that's on later on. Whatever. You can have a range of emotions. It's not just one. But we want to focus on the ones that need attention. So is there anything that you need in that moment? And you could always say, how old is the part of you that needs something? And that helps you to answer your question. What does she need? And what we think we need as an adult isn't always what we need. So asking that part of you that is feeling anxious or scared, what do you need? And it might surprise you. The answer might not be what you think it is. But if you have the time just to start connecting with the various parts of you, that's what I mean. For me, this work is about becoming whole. All of these parts are us. They're not, different parts of our psyche, or maybe they are, but I don't care. For me, it has to be really practical. It has to be like, how can I imagine this? How can I talk to that part? It's about becoming whole. So that would be about part of you noticing what another part needs, asking her what that is, and then hopefully being able to act on it. And if you can't in that moment, because it's not always possible, right? If your kid's kicking off and you're like, oh my God, I just need 5 minutes to myself, but you can't right now. You've just got to get through this. Then it's about saying to that part, I see you. You are about to lose it. You really need some attention. I see you. Hold on, hang on in there, and I'll come to you the minute I can. And just her knowing, okay, I'm seen. And then coming back to her really helps.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love the way you're saying that. It really resonated with me. And the only thing I would add to that is sometimes what I've had people do, and I've done this myself, is go back to certain places if you have the capability that you really enjoyed as a child. It could be a specific playground or a certain store or a food store that maybe you grew up with, getting a certain food, listening to certain music that you used to listen to when you were younger, to help that connection. And I think to that point of I see you, I think that goes really far. And one question that I asked, and I'm going to ask it to you as well, if your inner child could have a birthday party today, what would the theme be?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? Funnily enough, well, actually, what do you mean by party? Because the older I get, the more introvert I am. I used to have big parties all the time when I'm in my 20s. And now I realize that would scare the shit out of me now. I don't want to be the center of attention. So it might just be doing something really beautiful. I wouldn't have a theme. I wouldn't necessarily have a party, but I would. In fact, this is what I want to do every birthday. I like going for a really nice hike in nature. And then I like going out for a really nice dinner.
And do you think your inner child would appreciate that now?
I think she really appreciates not having to perform for anyone. My whole life was performing to my parents' expectations. So not having to perform, going for a walk. Nature doesn't care what I look like, what I say. Nature doesn't care. And going out for a meal with my partner because he's a great listener and he doesn't make me perform. So anything that's the opposite of having to put on a show for other people feels good to me. Being given permission to say no, actually. And that's quite common with my clients, saying, do you want to do this? You can say no. And often the inner child goes, no. And you're like, okay, you don't have to. And then I've done this myself. And then my inner child's often gone, I don't have to. You're like, no. Really? No, you don't have to.
Right.
I'm not going to get in trouble. No. You don't have to do anything. Okay. Okay, I'll do it. Because she's been given the space to make a choice. But my whole life was do this and do it well. Now. No time to think. No.
The way we want.
Yeah. So for me to be told I don't have to do anything is like, oh, heaven.
That makes a lot of sense. And that I think that's something that I think a lot of moms that are listening to this can really resonate with that. I'm curious, just as we sort of wrap it up over here, there's so many more questions where I can go with this, but I want to focus on the concept of teaching and working with the inner child, with our young ones. And specifically, let's say for our adolescents and even younger than that. I'm curious, how do you go about dealing with it? Whether it's the moms that are coming to you at home or in other situations where you're speaking to people regarding wanting to teach the concept of inner child to children. How would you go about teaching it?
You can't. You don't, as a child or adolescent or even young adult, you don't have the psychological awareness to be able to see your past through the same lens that we can as adults. So I don't work with anyone that's younger than 23. My youngest was 23. And that's limit. And when you kind of know that and you reflect back on your own life, often people are like, oh, yeah, now that you say that, it was about 23 that I started realizing this about myself or this. Before then, you just can't. So how can you support the inner child that is them? I think what you can do is not mention the inner child, they won't get it, but you can mention this concept of checking in with yourself, self-awareness, doing what feels good in your body. All kids get that. Does something feel exciting? Does your chest open? Is it like, yes? Or do your shoulders hunch? Do you feel sad? Does it feel draining? Be led by your body. Take time out by yourself to be with yourself. Check in with how you're feeling and what might you need. But that's quite tricky for children. But I've always been really open with my kids. I've explained concepts, and if they don't get it, they don't get it. It doesn't matter, but something will go in. So I advocate being really open with the journey that you're on. And I say to my mums, this isn't shameful work. If I'm teaching you how to release your anger and I'm saying, go and scream in a pillow, go and stomp your feet, tell your children, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now and I need to release some anger. I'm going to go and hit a pillow. Do you want to do it with me? Are you feeling a bit angry? Should we do it together? There's nothing wrong with sharing and role modeling your new practices, because how amazing would that have been for us to learn how to do this stuff at age 4 or 5 or 2? We'd be completely different people. So I say share it with your kids. Do it in front of them. That's teaching them the skills. I don't think you need to necessarily focus on the inner child, but your role model, self-care, back to your self-care.
When we talk about inner child, and I'm curious if there's a piece of advice you've ever been given, maybe even a piece of parenting advice that you've been given, that if you talk to your inner child, they would find hysterical.
I think an advice that was helpful, which I remember being told when I was 17 or something, and that was everything is an experience. So this was at a stage where I was thinking, what am I going to do? What exams should I take? What career am I going to take? I don't know who I am. Oh my God, like the world felt so big and scary and I didn't have a clue what to do. And this person said to me, start somewhere. It doesn't matter whether you work at a checkout in a supermarket. It doesn't matter whether you go for the Foreign Office and you want to be a diplomat. It doesn't matter whether you go in to food tasting or a perfumer. Do something. And that something will give you experience that then hones what it is that you love and don't love and what you want to do. And I've always thought of that. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking when you make a decision, it's forever. It's never forever. It's always until it doesn't feel good. Literally. And I keep that piece of advice that I was given when I was 17, that if it feels good now, that's what I'm going to do. If it doesn't, I'm going to stop. And that's what I didn't have as a child. I had to stick at things. Don't let people down. That's not being reliable.
So if you right now took that advice and you asked her, and you told that to your inner child, how do you think they would react?
You don't have to stick at anything. I would rest a lot more. I still have a really hard inner taskmaster who needs to accomplish what she's set out to do in the day before she gives herself permission to rest. So if my inner child was allowed more leeway, she would be like, let's go outside, let's sit in the sun, let's go for a walk, let's relax more, let's enjoy life more. I don't enjoy life that much, and I know I should, and I know I have to work on that, but I'm still, I pander too much to my inner taskmaster.
Well, I think over time, together with your inner child, you'll be able to go a lot of places over here. So as we finish up, I just have a few, I could say, I don't call them rapid fire questions, but let's call them a little bit lighter questions so we can sort of process them out just a little bit. Can you think of a teen experience that you've had that really rings a lot of those awesome, healthy bells in memory?
Being naughty at school, that sense of kind of camaraderie and belonging that comes from, setting each other dares. I was a boarder, so I was sent to boarding school, which doesn't really exist in America. So you're sent to a boarding house, you have a boarding mistress, and you have to go to set bed at a set time. So the lights are on, you have to stop talking. And we would set each other dares, right, you go down into the lounge and then take a piece of the plant and then come back up. And then we'd the kind of adrenaline and the excitement and then the, yay, she did it. That kind of bond, that bond that held us together, even though we were being naughty.
So what was it about that experience that really sticks with you?
The connection with the others, the feeling like you belong to something bigger than you.
If there would be a historical figure that's not related to you that you could think of that you would like to have lunch with your family, who would that be?
With my current family, my children and everyone.
Yes.
Historical. Joan of Arc. Strong feminist. Leader. Warrior. I've got 2 girls and a boy. So feminism, we talk about that quite a lot. And my girls are even more kind of staunch than I am, but they're really articulate about it. So yeah, some kind of that Joan of Arc or Boudica, who's, I don't know if you know about that in America. So she was like a Celt queen. So when the Romans invaded Anglo-Saxon England, she fought back. She was fierce and she really fought back. She was a really good kind of defender of her people. So yeah, some kind of really strong warrior woman. I'd like to ask them what it was like for them.
That sounds like it would be a really awesome meal with a lot of talking and a lot less eating in a certain way.
Yeah.
Is there a book or a podcast or some YouTube clip or something that you would recommend people can watch, or something that's been really helpful to you?
Yeah, I probably have to go to Janet Lansbury. I've been on her podcast, and I'll tell you why I like her, because I have a story there. I did some deep inner work on my childhood when I first became a mum, because that's when all this stuff came up. And I was recommended by this person who didn't have children. Oh, you should listen to Janet Lansbury. She's great. I was like, okay, cool. Tootled off, looked up Janet Lansbury, followed her for literally about a week. And then I was like, screw this. This is not working for me. Because her gentle, conscious, respectful parenting, which is brilliant in itself, I could not do. I could not do it. And it just made me feel more ashamed, more broken, more bad. So I unfollowed her. I was like, no, I can't do this. This is not helpful at all. And then I kind of went into like, oh God, now I don't know what to do. So I didn't really do much about my parenting until I really healed my inner child, really healed my past. Then I came across her again online and I thought, oh, let's just give it a look. And it didn't trigger me. And I could do it. And it kind of formed a big part of my work, that it kind of helped me realize the hook that I now talk to mums about. Like, you can't be a conscious parent. You can't be a respectful parent until you've done this work. So, I mean, you can, but what I mean is it's very difficult. If you feel you can't, if you feel it's impossible, there's a reason. It's not your fault. It's because you haven't yet healed what you need to heal, which is bulldozing all the stuff that you've learned. So as you know, the prefrontal cortex, that front bit of your brain, has got all the podcasts and the books and the mantras and the theories and everything that you know you want to do. But when you go into a trauma response or you're taken back to a difficult childhood experience, forget it.
It's not online.
That bit
right.
is offline, exactly. And your limbic system kicks in. So you're not able to access any of that information. So this is what I say to people. I can now follow Janet Lansbury. I now love what she says because I can apply it. So don't put the cart before the horse. Or another analogy, I say you can't put icing on a cake that's raw. You have to bake your cake first. Then, by all means, put the icing on it. But parenting work is very often mindset work. And you can't do mindset work if you are experiencing flashbacks, trauma, disproportionate reactions, blah, blah, blah. It's not possible. So hopefully that gives other people a sense of hope. You're not a bad mother. You are not a bad mother. You are just having trouble accessing what you know you want to do. If you can channel that energy that you're currently putting into parenting into your own past, not that you're saying you're, putting your kids to the side, but put that first, put your energy into that first, you will see that parenting is a side effect. As you work on yourself, your parenting will improve. Just as my client's relationship with her husband improved. She didn't set out to do that. It happened. It's exactly the same. So I would say, I would recommend that podcast or that following her and her books, and always use that as a gauge. If you are triggered by it, great. You know exactly what to do. If you are not, great. So either way, it's like this, that you're going to test where you need to put your attention first. Am I ready for parenting mindset work? If so, awesome. If you find it triggering, you find it really, really hard, okay, you now know what you need to do first.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, and we're gonna put some of her links inside the show notes for today. And talking about links and stuff, I'm curious before we ask our last question over here, Lavinia, where can people find you, and how can then they see more about you?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, like everyone else, the Inner Child Healing Expert. So you can find me there, and my website is laviniabrown.com. So that's the hub of all my courses and everything. But if, I want to be accessible. So I've got a very wide range of offerings going from absolutely free to a significant investment. It's never too late to start this work. If you want to find out a little bit more about inner child healing, I've got a free workbook on my website, absolutely free. I teach you how to manage your triggers. I teach you how to tame that inner critic. I teach you how to self-care. That's all for free. It's a really good booklet. If you're on Instagram or social media, I now post about 6 or 7 times a week. So that's all free content, all about how to do this, what might be your symptoms, where to go, what to do. I'm very, very practical because I believe that there's no point, like you said, talking about labels or theories. We want to know how to apply this to our parenting, how to apply this every day to ourselves. So that's all free. And obviously, if you want to do more, I have a self-led program, which is amazing. And it's for life. And you get me for life too. You get 2 calls a month for life and supporting you through that program. And then obviously you come up with me privately. There's a whole range of offerings to suit every budget and every kind of commitment.
That's amazing. And again, the website is laviniabrown.com, and we'll have the links for that in the show notes as well. Last question over here before we finish up. I'm curious if you would like to have a everyday mundane superpower as a parent. What would that be?
An everyday superpower.
But it has to be specifically for your parenting.
Yeah.
What would that be?
I know. Need less sleep. Need less sleep, more energy.
More energy.
Because then I could do even more than I do. Like yesterday was a really full-on day, and I'm sure every parent that works and has children understands. It's a juggle. And yes, I try and do, like we're talking about, my biggest self-care is 20 minutes of being with myself in silence every day. Yesterday, because my son's going through these exams, this is a big thing for me right now, I thought he needs attention. He needs it, and I'm not giving it to him. So I put that 20 minutes into him, and then I couldn't even keep my eyes open, so I had to go to sleep. So I missed out mine, and that was just like, I hate that. I hate that it has to be, be a good mum or look after yourself. There's no middle ground. Let's like one or the other, because I just didn't have time that day. So if I could go to bed later and not feel so tired so I could do more, that would be amazing.
Well, it's an awesome answer, and this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for a few minutes today.